Hello and welcome everyone to another video for CFA Level 1. In today's video, we will be starting a new reading in economics, and the name of the reading is Firms and Market Structure. Okay. Again, we will break this reading into multiple topics and we will take each topic one at a time. Okay. So what we will be doing today is in firms and market structure, we will be doing everything about demand. So the way this chapter is structured is that first you have concept related to demand, then you have concept related to supply, and then you have various concepts related to the market. Means how many kinds of market is there, what is monopolistic competition, what is perfect competition, what is monopoly competition. There are a lot of things, right? What is a producer's equilibrium, so on and so forth, right? So we will study each and every topic separately and then we will try to interrelate all of them together. Okay. So in today's video, we will be covering everything relating to demand, which is there to study in this chapter. Okay. So if you see concepts related to demand is there. So we have demand elasticity, and then we have law of demand, and then we have the exceptions to demand. Okay. So in today's video, we will be covering everything relating to demand, right? But although there are concepts related to demand over here, but a very important thing is missing. What is missing? The basic definition of demand is missing over here. Why it is missing? Because it is assumed by the CFA Institute that a student who is coming over here would have a basic knowledge of demand. Okay. But in our video, I am making an assumption that although you might have studied about demand in your 11, 12 or something, but you don't remember it. Okay. So we will first understand what is demand, and then we will, deep dive into the concepts which are there in your CFA curriculum. Okay. Let me repeat. The definition of demand in itself is not there in your curriculum. Okay. So first let us see what is demand. Okay. See, demand, when you call demand, it has three aspects. Demand has three aspects that needs to be understood, that needs to be considered. Okay. First is the desire for goods and services. The second is the means for goods and services. And the third is the willingness to use the means to get goods and services. Okay. So there are three important aspects when you talk about demand. One is the desire, second is the means, third is the willingness. Three important definitions, three important terms. What is demand? Demand is basically a person desiring a goods and services, having the means to get it, and willing to use that means to get the goods and services. Okay, what is desire? Desire means that I want something. Desire means that I want something, right? If I don't want something, then it is not a demand. First check. If I don't want something, that is not a demand. But today, sitting over here, I might want a lot of things. I might want a Mercedes. I might want a BMW, so on and so forth. Then we come to the second condition. Means. What do you mean by means? Means ability to pay for it, which is money. Do you have the money for it? You might want a lot of things, but do you have the ability to pay for it? If you don't have the ability, then you are not creating demand. If you don't have money, then you are not creating demand. Demand requires the desire as well as the means. Means you should also have the purchasing power to back your desire. Okay. So first condition, you should be wanting something. The second condition, you should have the means or the money to pay for it. The third is the willingness. What is willingness? It means you want something, you have the money to pay for it as well, but if you are not willing to use that money to get the goods or services, then also it is not demand. So first you should want something, second you should have the money to pay for it, and the third you should be able to use or willing to use that money in order to get what you want. So desire means willingness. When all these three element is available, when all these three element exist for a goods or services, it is called as demand. If any one of them is missing, it is not demand. Be very clear. If any one of them is missing, it is not demand. Guys, please be considerate of the fact, if any of these three things is not there, either one or two or three, then it is not called as demand. Guys, are we clear? So demand means desire, means, and willingness to use the means. Guys, are we clear? Okay. Now coming back to what we have to study in our curriculum. Okay. There is a concept known as elasticity. What is elasticity? Elasticity can be with respect to demand, it can be with respect to supply. That is why we will study it in a generic sense. What is elasticity? Elasticity is a measure of how responsive one economic variable is with respect to change in another. So basically, when we are talking about elasticity, okay, we are saying how responsively one element is changing due to change in some other factor. Okay. Now, when we understand in relation to demand and supply, this one element can either become demand or it can become supply. Okay, so when we talk about demand elasticity, what we will say, how responsive is demand with respect to change in factors. Correct? Similarly, when we are talking about supply, it means how responsive is supply with respect to change in factors. Now, what are these factors? Now, the pertinent question we need to answer is, what are these factors? What are these factors? Now, this is covered in our syllabus. So, what is covered in our syllabus is three primary factors that influence the demand that we will be studying. Okay. See, when we are talking about demand elasticity, three primary factors that we need to study. Factor number one, own price. What is own price? Own price means the price of the goods or services we are talking about, whose demand we are considering. Second, income elasticity. What is income elasticity? Income elasticity is basically the income of the person who is creating the demand for that product. So, for example, if we are talking about a mobile phone, recently iPhone has launched, right? If we are talking about demand for iPhone 17, then its income elasticity will be understood and identified with relation to my income, because I am creating a demand for that product, right? And the third is cross price elasticity. What is cross price elasticity? Now, this is an interesting one. In cross price elasticity, we are determining or we are estimating the demand of a product with respect to the change in the price of other product. So, for example, over here we are seeing how responsive is the demand for iPhone with respect to change in price of Samsung. So, what I am saying, in cross price elasticity, we are seeing how responsive is demand for iPhone 17. Okay, iPhone 17 with respect to change in price of Samsung 25, Samsung S25. Are we getting it? So basically, in cross price elasticity, we are seeing the demand of one product with respect to a change in the price of the other product. Okay, guys, are we clear? Okay. Now let us see the formula. Here we come into the numerical part, right? What is own price elasticity? Own price elasticity is percentage change in quantity divided by percentage change in price. What is this price? This price is price of self. So what is own price elasticity? Own price elasticity is percentage change in the price of the goods due to change in its own prices. Guys, are we clear? Guys, in income elasticity, what we are seeing percentage change in quantity of goods. See, this will be common. The numerator will be common in all of three. Why? Because we are seeing the responsiveness of demand, which is nothing but change in quantity with respect to change in the income. What is this income? Income of the person creating demand. Income of person creating demand. So basically, if you as a consumer don't want iPhone 7, don't want iPhone 17, then your change in income will not impact or will not be considered in income elasticity. But if I or me as a consumer want iPhone 17, then my change in income will impact the income elasticity. Okay. The third cross price, percentage change in quantity of X. What is X over here? X is considered as own goods, means percentage change in quantity, divided by percentage change in price of Y. What is Y? Y is some other goods. Y is some other goods. Now we will also understand what is Y over here. Y is some other goods, okay, but we have to understand this Y over here, this Y is related to X. It is not that Y is unrelated. So basically we will not see the demand for iPhone 17 with respect to change in price of vegetable. Are you getting my point? So we are not assessing or we are not calculating change in demand for iPhone 17 with respect to change in price of a water bottle like this. We are not doing that. You need to be very clear on this aspect. In the example itself, I had said Samsung S25. So we need to understand, whenever we are assessing cross price elasticity, the change in the price of the product that we are considering will be related to Y. Okay. Now what will be this relation? This relation can be two. Okay. Either X and Y can be complementary goods, or X and Y can be substitute. Okay. What are substitute goods? Substitute goods are those which can be used as a replacement of one another, like Samsung S25 or iPhone 17. A person may use iPhone 17 or a person may use Samsung S25. Or for example, tea and coffee. A person may drink tea, a person may drink coffee. Usually a person will not drink them together. Okay. So one is replacing the another. Guys, are we clear? One is replacing the another. On the other hand, complement goods are those which are used together. For example, a razor and a blade, right? What you will do with a razor without a blade? You won't be able to do anything. For example, a mobile phone and a charger, they are used together. Means if a charger, sorry, if there is a mobile phone, a charger is needed, right? So they're always used together, correct? So the goods which are used together are known as complements. Goods which are used in replacement of one another are known as substitute. Guys, are we clear? Guys, are we clear? Okay. Now we will understand some important facts of elasticity. Okay. See, when we are talking about cone price elasticity, it is important for us to understand the relation between price and quantity demanded for the goods or services. So when we are talking about own price elasticity, it is important for us to understand what is the relation. What is the relation of the price with the demand of the own goods? This relation is usually negative. There exists a negative or inverse relation between price and quantity demanded. So what does it mean? It means, and it is very logical. See, we will not understand or we will not read anything which is theoretical in nature. Anything which is relatable to you in your daily life is something what we will study. What does negative or inverse relation? It means that if price of the goods increases, the quantity demanded will fall. Very logical. If tomorrow for a product that you love or like, if I'm increasing the price, definitely you will buy lesser of that product, correct? Because you will feel it is expensive. At the same time, if I reduce the price of a good, the quantity will increase. Definitely, if I make a product cheaper, the the quantity will increase. So that is why we say the price and quantity works in an inverse or a negative relation. We say it inverse or negative relation. Guys, are we clear? So when we are talking about elasticity, what is elasticity? Elasticity is nothing but change in quantity by change in price. Correct? Correct. So if Q and P have a negative relation, what will happen? Usually price elasticity will be negative. Guys, are we understanding? Usually it will be negative. Okay. So you see, it is generally negative in nature, mentioned over here. Guys, are we clear? Now we come to income elasticity. What do we do in income elasticity? In income elasticity, we are seeing the relationship between the income and the quantity demanded. Income and quantity demanded. Now over here, things are not as simple as it were in price. Okay. When we talk about income and quantity demanded, over here we are bifurcating the goods into two. We are calling the goods as normal goods and we are calling the goods as inferior goods. So when we are considering and understanding the relationship between income and quantity demanded, rather than identifying a relationship directly, we are breaking down the type of goods we are talking about. The goods are normal and inferior. I don't think I need to explain you what is inferior goods, what is a normal good. Normal goods are goods which we use in the daily consumption. Inferior are bad quality goods. Okay, guys, are we understanding? Inferior are bad quality goods. Guys, are we understanding? Now the interesting part. If the goods are normal, then this elasticity or relation is positive or direct relation, which means if income is increasing, the quantity will also increase. If income is decreasing, the quantity will also decrease. Okay. But when we talk about inverse inferior goods, the relation is again negative or inverse in nature. What does it mean? It means if income is increasing, if income is increasing, their quantity will fall, and if income is falling, the quantity will rise. Now, why will this happen? See, this is the aspect which is given. Okay, this will happen, but why? What is the logic behind it? So, there is a very interesting understanding behind it. See, when will a person consume an inferior good? You need to understand. A person will consume an inferior good when he has a low income, when his income is low, then only he will consume inferior goods. So, consumption of inferior good is not a choice. It is not a choice but a necessity to have. Okay. So, when such kind of person's income increase, what will happen if such kinds of person income increase? He will switch. He will make a switch from inferior to normal goods. Okay. When a person who is out of necessity consuming inferior goods, he sees his income increasing, what will he do? He will switch from an inferior to a normal good, and thus the quantity of inferior good will fall. Quantity of inferior good will fall. Correct? But if his income is only reducing, he has no option. He cannot buy normal goods. He has to buy the inferior quality goods. That is not a choice but a necessity. In that situation, his quantity demanded will increase. I hope you can relate with this. It is a very common logic, common understanding, guys. There is nothing, technical in it. It is very layman. If someone will have income, he will try to upgrade to a more better and a higher, superior quality product. If someone is struggling with money, then he will have to buy anything which his income can get him. Correct? So that is it with income. Now we come to cross price elasticity. When we were studying cross price elasticity, we have already seen we are dividing the goods into two categories again. Goods are divided into two categories: complementary or substitute. Okay. First, let us see what is the relation and then we'll see the logic. In complementary, the relation is inverse or negative, which means if the price is increasing, quantity demanded will fall. If price is falling, quantity demanded will rise. Okay. In substitute, it is direct or positive, which means if the price is rising, the quantity will also rise. If price is falling, quantity will also fall. Now we will understand why this is happening. First, let us understand substitute. See, what is the definition of substitute? One is replacing the other goods consumption. So, for example, if the price of tea is increasing, a person who needs to drink something in the morning will switch to coffee. Correct? So, with tea prices increasing, quantity demanded for coffee will increase. Similarly, if Apple increases the prices of iPhone 17 beyond a particular level, then what will people say? Okay, we will not use iPhone 17, we will use a Samsung S25. Correct? So, if the prices of a substitute is increasing, then what will people do? People will shift the consumption to the other substitute. Are you understanding? If the prices are increased of a particular product, people will shift the consumption to its substitute. Guys, are we clear? So that is why with prices increasing, my quantity will also increase. Similarly, if the iPhone 17 are coming at a very cheap rate, what will people say? Okay, yes, I will buy it. Then people who are buying Samsung S25 Ultra may also buy iPhone 17. Guys, are we understanding? Okay. What about complement? Suppose the prices of razor is increasing a lot. Then what will people do? People will say that, see, the prices of razor are increasing. My shaving cost will go up if I am using a razor and a blade. So let me not buy razor and let me not buy blade as well. In that situation, because of the increase in the price of razor, the quantity demanded for blade will also fall, and vice versa. Because two things are consumed together, people see both of their price combined as one. So when you are increasing the price of one product, the other product also seems to be expensive to me, and thus its quantity falls down. Guys, are we understanding? Since these two things are combined and consumed together, if I'm increasing the price of one, then my whole thing is appearing expensive, and my whole thing's consumption will fall down, which means the other product consumption also falls down. Guys, are you understanding? So that is why we say there is an inverse or a negative relation in complement. See what we are written over here. X and Y are related, complementary, substitute as a positive relation, complementary as a negative relation, normal goods positive, positive, inferior goods negative. Okay. Now there are some factors which affect elasticity. So what is elasticity? We have seen. What is elasticity? Elasticity is nothing but change in quantity due to change in factors. Correct? Now this change in factor is nothing but price, income, and price of other goods. Okay. Now the important question. What will be the magnitude of this change in quantity? What will be the magnitude of this change? Or who is determining the magnitude of this change? Who is determining magnitude? See, till now what we have studied, we were just studying the direction. Okay. Till now, these things which we have studied, price, income, and price of other goods, they were just telling me the direction. Okay. Which where we will move. But by how much this movement will happen is important. This how much of this movement is known as magnitude. This magnitude is determined by three factors. This magnitude is determined by three factors. One, what is the availability of substitute? So let me give a very simple example. For example, railways. Okay. So suppose you need to go from point A to point B. There is no direct road in between. Maybe B is a remote location. Okay. And there are no flights. Railway is the only option for you. Then you tell me, irrespective of the prices of railway journey, irrespective of the prices of fare, irrespective of fare, do you think the demand will go down? Do you think? Why will it not go down? Because people don't have options. People don't have substitute. In that situation, the magnitude of change, see, this magnitude of change will be lower. On the other hand, if there are a lot of options, like there are expressways, there are flights, everything, then the demand will change by a larger unit. Then the magnitude will be higher. Correct. The second thing is proportion of income spent. Now this is a very important one which you need to understand. See what happens if a household is spending a large portion of its income. If a household is spending a large portion of its income on the product which we are discussing or whose price is changing, then even a small change in the price will, create some sort of tension in the household people. They would want to replace it or they would want to reduce the quantity because the portion of income they are spending is higher. If the portion of income which they are spending is lower, for example, a matchbox, okay, a matchbox in a family's consumption would be very small amount. So even if you change the price of matchbox by a very high amount, for example, if matchbox was earlier $0.1, okay, if you change it to $0.2, okay, and a family uses one or two matchbox a month, do you really think they would be bothered about it? Or do you really think they would go out and look for substitute for it? No, because it is a minuscule part of their total household budget. Okay. The third is time frame, very important. Time frame is simple. If the time horizon is large, the magnitude will be large. If the time horizon is low, the magnitude will be small. Because with more time, you give the consumer more time to switch. With more time, you give the consumer more time to adopt. But when the time is lower, the time given for switching or adoption is lower. That is why your change is lower. Guys, are we clear? Okay. On this note, we will now read law of demand. On this note, we will see law of demand. Guys, what is law of demand? Guys, what is law of demand? Law of demand is a simple one-liner law. What is it? We have already seen. Law of demand states simply that when price of goods decrease, quantity demanded will increase and vice versa. Simple. Nothing else. Or there exists an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded for a product, for goods and services. Simple as that. Law of demand says law of demand is simply saying that there exists an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded for a product. So basically, when you plot law of demand on a graph, it is price, it is quantity. Law of demand will say that your product will have a inverse curve. Downward sloping curve. So what it is saying? If you are increasing the price from P1 to P2, then your quantity demanded. So if you are increasing the price from P1 to P2, your quantity demanded will fall from Q1 to Q2. Simple. This is law of demand. Okay. Now when we are talking about law of demand, this is a generic law, correct? But when we were doing the income effect, if you remember, when we were doing the income elasticity, we divided the goods into two type of goods, normal and inferior. So the next question is, does law of demand hold true for inferior and normal goods, or just for inferior goods, or just for normal goods? This is a pertinent question. We have seen there are two kinds of goods. Law of demand, whether it holds both for inferior normal or just for normal or just for inferior. So in order to understand this concept better, okay, see what is law of demand? Law of demand is simply saying price and quantity are inverse to each other. Nothing else. One liner statement of law of demand. But now we will deep dive into it to understand whether law of demand is applicable on all type of goods or some type of goods. Okay. In order to understand this relation better, what we will do is that break the law of demand as well. So law of demand can be broken down into income effect and substitution effect. Guys, law of demand can be broken down into income effect and substitution effect. Over here, substitution effect is same for both normal and inferior goods, and it is similar to what we have studied in own price elasticity. What is it? What does it mean? It means that in substitution effect, price and demand, price and demand or quantity demanded, price and quantity demanded is inverse, irrespective of normal or inferior goods. So what does it mean? It means if the price is increasing, quantity will fall, and if the price is falling, the quantity will rise. Why? Substitution effect says that irrespective of the fact that whether it is an inferior or a normal good, whenever the price is changing, if it is increasing, a customer will look to replace it with another product. If the price is falling, the customer will use this product to replace it with some other product. So substitution effect is saying that irrespective of the fact that whether it is a normal or an inferior goods, with change in pricing, a customer will either look to replace it or use this to replace someone. So irrespective of the fact that whether it is an inferior or normal, customer will use this product either to replace it or use this to replace something. Income effect is important. In income effect, we are then now considered about relative income. What is relative income? It is saying that in case of normal goods, when your price increases of the goods, when the price increases, the relative income for the consumer. What is relative income? Relative income means income with respect to purchasing power parity. What is purchasing power parity? It means that if the consumer was earning $100, okay, and if the product costed $1 and now increased to $2, which means earlier the consumer was able to purchase 100 of that product, now he will be able to purchase just 50, which means his relative income is now lower because of the price increasing. So his relative income is lower. Because it is a normal good, and the relative income is lower, the quantity will be lower. Similarly, if the price has reduced, the relative income is now increased. A relative income increased, so quantity will increase. In inferior goods, if my prices increases, relative income will fall, correct? But as we have already discussed in case of inferior goods, I am buying inferior goods because I don't have an option. It is not out of choice, it is out of necessity. So my relative income was already lower, it is now even more lower. So I don't have the option. I can never go to normal goods, or I cannot replace it. Whatever I have to spend it on the substitute. Whatever I have to spend it on the inferior goods only. So my quantity will rise. Similarly, if the price falls, my relative income will rise. Now I can find a better alternative for it and my quantity will fall. When we add both of them, we get law of demand. See, in case of normal goods, the law of demand is working very nice. But if you see in case of inferior goods, income effect and substitution effect are opposing, correct? See, in normal goods, we have established that law of demand will work. Why? Because income effect and substitution effect are working in the same direction. But in case of inferior goods, they are opposing. So what will happen over here is that in inferior goods, substitution effect has a higher effect on as compared to income effect. Since substitution effect is higher and substitution effect says that price increase, quantity decreases, we can say that inferior goods also follow law of demand. Why? See, law of demand has two aspects, income effect and substitution effect. Inferior goods has the same substitution effect as compared to normal goods. But in income effect, it is different. But since substitution effect is higher than the income effect, law of demand also follows. Sorry, inferior goods also follow law of demand. Are we clear? Guys, are we clear? Okay. But now comes the major twist. There are two exceptions to law of demand. One is known as Giffen goods. What are Giffen goods? Giffen goods are what are Giffen goods? Giffen goods are ultra low quality goods. Ultra low quality means inferior of inferior. Inferior of inferior. So these are not inferior goods. Giffen goods and inferior goods are different. It is ultra inferior goods. Okay. In ultra inferior goods, what happens? In ultra inferior goods, your substitution effect fails or becomes lower than the income effect. When this will happen, what will happen? When this happens, law of demand is not followed. So over here, when price falls, quantity also falls, and when price rises, quantity also rises. Why? Since they're ultra inferior product, their income effect is greater than their substitution effect. See, simple. The relationship does not hold. Okay. Then there is something called as Veblen goods. Veblen goods are ultra luxurious product. These are not bought for utility. Not bought for utility. So basically, I'm not buying it for use. It is mostly bought for show off. Mostly bought for status or show off. Okay. So these are goods. When you increase the price, their demand also increases. Why? Because when you are increasing the price, people who are already rich, they want it more because it will help them show their status or show off. It will help them in their show off. That is why in case of Veblen goods, which are ultra luxurious product, even if you increase the prices, their demand will increase. Why? because they're never bought for consumption or they're never bought for use. They're always bought for status or show off. Guys, are we clear? So with this, we have covered all the concepts for demand. See over here. You can read it later. Normal goods, this, inferior goods already mentioned. Exceptions to law of demand, Giffen and Veblen. So it is Giffen and Veblen, and everything we have studied. Total revenue is maximum when elasticity is equal to 1. Okay, so a statement, it will help you in questions. Total revenue, what is total revenue, guys? Total revenue is simple, it is price into quantity. So it is saying that when elasticity is equal to 1, then my total revenue is maximum. So what is total revenue? Total revenue is nothing, it is price into quantity, and it will be maximized when my elasticity is 1. What is elasticity 1 means? It means for 1 unit change in price, quantity demanded also changes by 1 unit. Also changes by 1 unit. Guys, are we clear? Guys, are we clear? So with this, we have completed the entire concept for demand. In the next class, we will start with supply. Till then, we will meet again, and happy studying.